It's 1973. Tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union have only grown, with each trying to contain the spread of the other's political ideology. The US has placed its focus on support for democratic governments around the world, while the Soviet Union focuses on expanding its influence and spreading communism. Their conflicting political goals are fuel for conflicts around the world, from Vietnam to Nicaragua. This is Afghanistan. Located in South Asia, it's a landlocked nation of over 250,000 square miles, with the USSR to the north. Here, a stable monarchy has existed under Mohammad Zahir. Zahir focuses on developing the country with foreign aid from the US and the Soviet Union, working on projects including irrigation and highway construction. Zahir maintains Afghanistan's neutrality in international politics at a time of increasing polarity between East and West. However, internal economic and political problems in the country grow, and the monarchy's incompetence in the face of Afghanistan's economic problems leads to Zahir's deposition in a coup led by Mohammad Dad Khan, who names himself president of an Afghan republic. Dad aims to suppress the left and limit dependence on the Soviet Union. However, a communist Afghan party, the People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan, comes to power in a coup led by Noor Mohammad Taraki and engineered by Hafizullah Amin. Dad is killed, and a new government known as the Democratic Republic of Afghanistan, or the DRA, is created. This new communist regime in Afghanistan, led by Taraki as both government and prime minister, doesn't reflect the goals of the Afghan people. Much of the population is devoutly Muslim, and this faith directly conflicts with the principles of communism, which shuns religion. Pretty soon, uprisings begin among Islamic fundamentalists known as mujahideen, meaning those who engage in jihad, which is a struggle on the behalf of Islam and Allah. The mujahideen are Islamic rebels who want their country's government to reflect Islamic values. Their resistance against the new communist government marks the beginning of an Afghan conflict between secular communists and democratic Islamists. On December 5, 1978, the PDPA and the USSR sign a friendship treaty. On March 14, 1979, the U.S. ambassador Adolph Dubs is killed, prompting the elimination of U.S. assistance to Afghanistan. The USSR begins to provide massive military aid to the PDPA and the DRA. In that same month, Prime Minister Taraki loses a power struggle with Hafizullah Amin, also a member of the PDPA. That March, Amin is named Prime Minister, though Taraki retains his role as president. In September, Taraki attempts to have Amin assassinated, most likely due to Soviet advice to do so, because the Soviets believe that Amin's anti-Islamic policy is worsening the political situation in Afghanistan. However, Taraki's attempt fails. Amin seizes power on September 14th. Taraki is killed in the violence. On December 12th of 1979, the Soviets decide to invade Afghanistan out of fear for another Islamic revolution quite similar to the events occurring in Iran during the same time period. The Soviets are becoming unsettled by Amin's efforts to improve relations with the U.S., particularly his secret meetings with U.S. diplomats. On December 24, 1979, the Soviets send 30,000 troops to invade Afghanistan in order to prop up the faltering PDPA. Within the first 6 months of the campaign, 80,000 personnel are sent over by the Soviets to occupy Afghanistan. During the Soviet invasion, Amin, the leader of the PDPA, is killed. On December 29th, Babrak Karmal is installed as the Afghan president and Soviet puppet. In his 1980 State of the Union address, Jimmy Carter, the American president, introduces the Carter Doctrine, which reinforces the U.S.'s policy of containment and warns any country against trying to gain control of the Persian Gulf region, an area rich in oil. Carter worries that the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan is their first move in an attempt to move south and gain control of the plentiful oil resources of the Middle East. Guided by the Carter Doctrine, the U.S. stops grain sales to the USSR and boycotts the 1980 Olympics in Moscow due to perceptions that the Soviets are using the Afghan crisis to their own economic advantage. In 1982, the UN General Assembly calls for Soviet withdrawal from Afghanistan. In 1985, the new Soviet leader, Mikhail Gorbachev, wants to put an end to the war. He goes about this by escalating the number of Soviet troops in Afghanistan with the hope of achieving a faster victory. This leads to the bloodiest year of the war. By 1985, an estimated 5 million Afghans have been displaced. Many flee to neighboring Iran and Pakistan. In 1986, Babrak Karmal is replaced with Mohammad Najibullah, also in the PDPA. 2 years later, in 1988, the United States, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and the Soviet Union all signed an agreement for the withdrawal of Soviet forces, returning Afghanistan to a non-aligned state. On February 15, 1989, the last departure of Soviet troops is announced. Over 1 million Afghans and 13,000 Soviet troops have been killed in Afghanistan's civil war.